In this video, I wanted to show how you could make a video like this, track the camera so that we have a 3D camera, and then go into rotoscoping this figure out from the background and combining elements in front of and behind this figure here. So there are a few steps in here, but I just wanted to give you the video that was shot as reference, and then we'll go into how you would go about dealing with this. So I have After Effects opened up. I'm going to import that footage into here. And what I can do is I'll just say right click and go to new comp from selection. Now that's going to pull up this right here, and then it's accessible if you right click, and you could go to track and stabilize. You can also find it in up at the top. Usually if you go to one of these workspaces, motion tracking, you should see it off to the side. You can track the camera. So what we're going to do is run this this function, and it's actually an effect that gets applied onto the footage. Now it's going to take a little while to go through it, and there's a few things to keep in mind. It's actually analyzing all the footage and trying to find moments, track marks in it to kind of figure out how the camera's moving and how to apply those to a 3D camera in the space. If we want to look at the track points when it's done, we can hit render track points, and you kind of see some of the process behind it. Now it's doing every frame, so there's 314 frames, and you can see these are the track marks that are being applied to the footage. And so it's using all those points as reference to kind of figure out where exactly it's going. Before you create the camera by hitting this button, you probably do want to check this, look at advanced and look at average error. Now, ideally your error is like 1 pixels or less. If it's more than that, you'll see that it gets a little bit bumpy. Here, we're actually pretty good. If you wanted to make this even better, you could hit detailed analysis and do it over again. So it's 1.09. Let's see if it gets any better when we do the detailed analysis. After we ran that detailed analysis, you can see that the error went down to 0.96, so that's acceptable, and I think the tracking is going to be pretty good. So let's hit Create Camera on top of it. So this is now the 3D camera, and this footage is still flat, but this camera exists in 3D space. So if we put some text in here, let's grab this and let's put Batman. I have this Batman Forever font that I downloaded for free, so it's kind of funny looking, but it's here. And if we turn on 3D layers like this, and we can move this around also, you should see that this will now be tracked into 3D space, and it's not jumping around so much, so it's I think the camera itself was tracked okay. You can see where it ends up. You might want to move this over, and you can use all these as well, or you can also grab the handles here for rotation. I think it's helpful to rotate like this, so you might want to position it. I mean, you can also rotate things manually with this interface as well. So find out what works for you, kind of what looks good. Yeah, and I'm not going to fuss too much with this. Maybe it could be bigger. I just wanted to get it in here to give you some reference. Now, the other thing we're going to do is try to cut out, rotoscope this figure, this Batman Lego figure, and then try to put something behind it. So what we can do is we'll get the video footage, and we need to apply the Roto Brush on this. So we can. The one thing I want to do is make a Roto Mask of this. So what I should probably do first is, I'm going to have the background on its own layer, and then I just want this piece kind of cut out and on top on a separate layer. So I'm going to make a duplicate of this layer. I don't need this camera tracker. I don't want that to slow us down. And then what I want to do is in the layer mode, so I can double click on this layer inside the composition. That's really important. You do it that way. You can see it opens up in a separate window like this versus opening up in here. It's not going to give you the same functionality. So I'm inside of here, and this is where I can go up into here. And if you're on a different tool, that Refine Edge, for example, you can go back up to Roto Brush. That's what we want. You can see what the icon looks like. And we'll start the first frame, and we'll just draw roughly what we think the shape should be. And this is going to use AI to calculate sort of what it thinks the roto should be, or the mask. And the closer you are to the edge, the better. But you want to keep everything within, and you can see even that has already done a pretty good job. If we hit play or space bar, it's going to start calculating this, and we can see what that mask is starting to look like. And so on, depending on the subject matter, this might work the first time. Other times you might need to go in and clean up some areas. So we're going to see how that looks. What we'll want to do is, if we find things are shifting, we want to find where the mask starts to veer off, and then go in and correct it there. And then we might need to go in and adjust a few other frames while we're at it, but eventually it will try to catch up and try to figure things out. So if you want to go frame by frame, it's function and up and down. And so, for example, I see a little bit of an open space in there, which, if I'm not going to put anything behind there, it might not matter, but it might be something that we want to start addressing. So maybe like right in here, or where's the first moment where it kind of starts popping up? Maybe like in here, we can hold on Option and then click and drag, and it's going to kind of fix that. If we want to adjust the size of the brush, we can hold down like Command, or I think it's on a PC it might be Control, and then click and drag up and down. This will make it smaller or bigger in case you want to go in and like really refine that one area. Okay, so that, let's see. And then once we put it in there, it kind of like figure out, oh, that's something that we should cut out. And it did, for the most part, figure that out. And we didn't have to do too much. Like, if you wanted to go in here, you can adjust things frame by frame if you feel like you need to, just to clean them up. But overall, I think this is a pretty good mask. I think it's a Lego figure, so it's probably not that complex. If you needed to find an edge that was very that was kind of harder, like maybe even something like this, but it's a really typical use case is like hair. What you could do is go in, and I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. This is the Refine Edge tool. This will tell it to like start paying more attention to this. And basically what you do is you kind of straddle the line. You draw like this, and wherever it's white is where it's gonna, you could imagine as part of the mask, and wherever it's black, it's gonna kind of take out of the mask. So this is a little bit more intense to calculate, but it's something that you can do if you have hair or something more delicate. And I think that this mask is acceptable for what we're going to use it for. Once we get to a good place, I should also show, if you want to view things differently, there are these toggles that you can use to kind of see the mask if you want to see how clean it came out. But that's like the default. And then when we think this is a good place, we can hit freeze to freeze it. Basically, it kind of pre-calculates everything, so it doesn't need to calculate this every time we use it in our composition. And this isn't permanent, so if you freeze it and then you realize you want to edit the mask, you can just unfreeze it, click this again, and then go in and change things, and then probably freeze it again. So this is going to take a little while, but once I have this set up, I'm going to go back into my composition and put something behind this mask or this rotoscoping that I did. Okay, so now I've frozen this footage. If we go back into our composition window over here, now this is the original footage behind it, and then this is the mask or the roto. So you could rename this if you wanted to keep things nice and clean. And basically what you could do is put something behind this now, like the layer order is going to matter. So if I go behind this, this actually goes behind it in space. Now, a few things to keep in mind that might be a little bit tricky is like, we don't actually know where this figure exists in 3D space because all we've tracked is the camera. We haven't tracked it. So when you put this whatever this thing behind it is going to be, you kind of need to situate it in a place that feels natural, because otherwise the parallax or just the way things move in space is going to seem totally off. I'm going to do something different to match the sort of reference that I created earlier. Let's bring in our like a 3D logo of the Batman, symbol, and I've shown how to export a GLB from Blender in a previous video. We're gonna use this, we'll bring this in, and you can see it's gonna be too big, so let's bring it down to like at least 40. Okay, the Batman, the text will be in the front, the 3D item will be behind it, but it's not really in a good position right now, so let me move this around. You can see it's situated right here. Like I said, I do want these to be positioned kind of correctly in relative space, so I don't really have the 3D information for the figure, but if I change my view to top, I do want to make sure that the two elements that I have, the text, which is going to be, let's see, right here, and the Batman symbol, which is here, you know, the Batman symbol should be behind the text, right? So that at least that parallax seems appropriate. So we can move it this way. And, you know, let's go back into our active camera to reference that. So you can see what that looks like if we wanted to rotate things or move things along, we could. So if, just to show you what I mean with the parallax and everything, here you can tell, like, by the way things are moving in space, that this Batman symbol is going to be behind the Batman text. Here in this pre-render, you can see that there's that the symbol is behind. It feels like it really is behind the Batman text itself. I might want to go in and change some of the rotation on this a little bit, just so and maybe the positioning, just so it feels a little bit better. I can hit P also to kind of move it in space. Yeah, and Z space is going to be the main area that it's we want to make sure that it's feeling relatively correct. Maybe scale it down a little bit. So it could be something something like this. So after I did a little bit of keyframing to move this bat symbol into place, but you can see that this basically we have the 3D camera that's kind of helping to track these items in space or situate them in space, and then we have this roto layer sitting on top of this 3D object in the layer stack, so that it occludes the bat symbol, creates that feeling of depth, that sort of illusion there. You know, there's some things to keep in mind too, like the lighting's not matching exactly. This is just kind of like I just wanted to show this technique, but you know, those are some things that you could look at. You could also look at how much of that object is being blurred. Like, you know, you can see back here the depth of field, like this is being blurry. So you wouldn't want something, if it was meant to be back here, it shouldn't be in sharp focus. So that's also something to keep in mind. Like this maybe is looking a little bit too sharp depending on the depth of field, but as just kind of an example of mixing together a few techniques, I think it accomplishes the goal. And in the original example that I showed at the beginning of the video, this is these techniques, just kind of using some more keyframing, some more animation within it. So there is one thing I wanted to show, one problem that could come up. So here's a video that I shot, and let me play this first. This is me trying to track this footage. So this is me trying to track the footage. Now there's a few things that are going to make this kind of hard to track. One is that there's not much texture in this scene. It's like kind of monochromatic over here. Some stuff is blurry in the background. I mean, even when I zoom in on this, it's kind of blurry. So that those factors could make tracking a little bit harder. There are a few workarounds, and I'm going to show how to some things you might do to fix those. But I think also just keeping this in mind when you're filming, thinking about picking backgrounds that maybe have more for the technology to track, that could be helpful. You know, if we put the track points here, you can see there aren't that many track points. And if we open up the advanced section here, you can see the average error is 1.89 pixels. So that's actually pretty high. If I actually made a camera out of this and I did the same sort of thing where I put in some text and I made it 3D, sorry about zooming in and out so quickly, we're going to see what this looks like. So that you have the 3D camera, we have this. When we go to play this, you can see it's like it's really bouncing around a lot, and actually it came off screen, but if I put this closer to here, you should see that it's really jumping around and kind of almost getting lost there. So, you know, the things you could do are detailed analysis, but that's only going to clean it up so much. So I think what we could do is, like, beyond shooting better footage, is trying to make the objects or the footage clear and allowing for more detailed track points. There are more track points on here, but you can see the average error is still pretty high at 1.98. So, so what I'm going to do is maybe I'm just going to make a duplicate of this footage just to show you how I might approach this. I'm going to take off the 3D camera tracker for now, and what I'm going to do is add an effect called Unsharp Mask. Now that is basically going to make some of this blurry stuff, or some of the stuff that's not much detail, have a little bit more detail to it. So we can kind of crank this up, and you should see the difference in here, off and on. So this is going to provide better tracking. Now we want to apply the tracker onto this footage that has this effect applied onto it. So we're going to need to pre-compose this footage and then apply the camera tracker on that footage. So we can go up to Layer, Pre-compose. You can see the keyboard shortcut there. And what we'll do is move all attributes into the new composition. What that does is it creates a new composition. And if you double click in here, you can see that this is where, let me turn this off. This is where the effect is applied. And if we go back into our composition, you can see there's no effects applied here. So we know that the effect is being applied within here. And now if we right click and do the tracking, it should work better. Let's also turn on detailed analysis, and we'll go from there. While that's going, I just wanted to also show this. Like, you can see how these are the keyframes for that 3D tracker camera that we created earlier. You can just see how they're jumping around a lot. So it really wasn't a clean track. This light pink is the position, and the darker pink is the orientation, which is a little bit harder to see at this scale, but if you get close, you can see. Now this jumping around, the camera was probably not jumping around like that. You could see it felt smoother, but it was just having a harder time to track that information. The results are better. The error is 1.68 now. Still not going to be great. Let's see if the new camera that we export from this will create the camera is doing any better. I think that is smoother. It's a little bit jerky, but you know, again, this is something that we were able to make better using these techniques. I think the footage itself could probably be better. And then you can also see that right around here where the camera kind of moves up, it really gets lost. It doesn't really know what's happening because it loses all the track points, right? But you know, probably the stuff that was tracked in space is going to come off screen at that point. But that's also something to think about, like the way that you shoot and edit this. You know, we could maybe stop the edit here, and that might be okay. It still is a little bit jerky, and that's probably some of those pops that you're seeing, or like kind of back and forth. But this does feel a little bit smoother, and at least, you know, if you can't fix the footage in this particular instance, you can use this technique for something else, for other footage. Hopefully that gives you enough to look at footage and do some tracking, doing some rotoscoping on it, and applying compositing elements in 3D space.